Hey everyone, before we dive in, just a quick heads up. I've already explained part 1 of this story, so if you haven't seen it yet, make sure to go watch that first so you don't miss anything important. And if you're enjoying the content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It really helps me grow and keeps me motivated to bring you more epic cultivation tales. Drop a like and comment too. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let's begin. I opened my eyes. I was kneeling in a courtyard, surrounded by children. My thoughts were still catching up. The memories from my previous life hadn't disappeared, but they felt different, as if they'd been neatly packed into a box, like an archive folder on a computer. Still accessible, but separate. I didn't feel like the old man I had become. I felt like me, the original me. At least I thought I did. And then it hit me. Everything that had happened. I had willingly chosen pain. I had welcomed it, just to protect someone, to prove something. I glanced toward the front of the crowd, where a middle-aged man stood. It was Su Yuanfei. A storm of emotions erupted in me. Rage, deep and old. 8 decades of pain and injustice boiled to the surface. This clan, this twisted world, offered only 3 choices. Become a warrior and risk a painful death. Submit and become a tool for others. Or sacrifice everything to become a valued cog in a broken system. No more. I stood. Sit down, the elder barked. I responded, no more, and I charged. But Yuan Fei didn't even blink. With a casual wave, a tiny arc of qi struck me. You have died. I opened my eyes again. The children still surrounded me. The red-robed disciple who had once ended my life stood nearby. I moved to confront him. Another spark of qi hit me. You have died. Another try. Another elite disciple. You have died. System warning. Repeated, rapid deaths detected. Continued behavior may result in administrative response. I looked at Yuan Fei. You have died. You have died. You have died. System warning. Repeated infractions have been logged. Total credits, 270. System, I whispered. What's the cost of rank 1 pills and their ingredients? Unable to calculate total cost. Insufficient data. Fine. What's the local price of low-purity basic rank 1 Qi gathering pills, Qi gathering powder, and blue peonies? That information costs 1 credit. Purchase. Confirmed. 269 credits remaining. Qi gathering pill, 5 silver. Powder, 2 silver. Blue peonies, 50 copper each. System. Grant me the ability to appraise pills. Full pill appraisal ability. Not available for purchase at this time. Then I want to appraise some rank 1 pills. Cost, 10 credits. Purchase, confirmed. 259 credits remaining. I calm myself. Once again, I was given the guided flame mantra and assigned a Master Rudy. I did my best to act naturally, repeating the actions of a life already lived. I waited until the hall was clear, then slipped inside, took a blue peony, and headed straight to the pill room. I was only level 1, but I had decades of experience. My control wasn't what it once was, but it was enough. With precision, I melted the flour, refined the chaotic qi, and formed a single pill. I used my new appraisal skill. High purity rank 1 qi gathering pill. Medicinal efficacy, 84%. Value, 20 silver. I could hardly believe it. For the first time in this life, I ran up the stairs, intent on confronting someone. You have died. I opened my eyes again. Su Yuanfei. You have died. You have died. System warning. The administrator has been alerted. Please wait. Total credits, 419. My fury slowly faded that I sat in silence. Alone in a place that once felt like home. Is this all there is? I muttered. Endless loops, endless death. What's the point? There was no answer. How much? I whispered, to make this stop. Still silence. Then, are you finished? A voice. Clear. Powerful. I looked up. Someone was in my home. Someone who shouldn't have been able to enter. He wore a brilliant red hanfu embroidered with golden threads that shimmered with their own light. I remember the youth in red robes who once ended my life. This man was what that youth could only dream of becoming. Who are you? I asked. I am the power behind this world, he said. The incarnation of the earthly Tao. I was the one who blessed you. I chose you. Through you, I aim to elevate this realm. He stared at me with cold clarity. Your early failures were tolerable, but continued self-destruction has no value. You are here for a reason, live long enough to fulfill it. I wanted to speak, protest, but the words wouldn't come. If you persist, your blessing will be revoked. So, I'm just a pawn. I asked, anger returning. Yes, but a useful one, he replied. This world thrives when its people thrive. Not for sentiment, but for progress. I turned to the system. I want to verify what this being said. Is it true? Cost paid by external entity. Confirmation granted. Statement. True. That didn't mean it was the full truth, but it meant the system and this incarnation were aligned. Then answer me this, I demanded. What's happening to my mind? He gave a sharp, exasperated breath. Nothing, he said. Your mind and body are recreated each time. Your soul, however, carries the memories. That's why it feels distant. Only the memories currently in your mind are real. Damage to your soul, though, now that is permanent, and you're fully capable of harming it yourself. He turned to leave. That's the only question I'll answer. You won't get another chance. But then he paused. Oh, and the discounts you've enjoyed? That was me. I helped because you were cornered. No more favors. From here on out, you're on your own. And with that, he vanished. Credits expended. Transaction complete. Remaining credits, 356. I sat in the silence once again. I sat in silence, lost in thought. Could I really trust the so-called incarnation of the earthly Tao? Of course not. I didn't even understand what it truly was. Its words might have been true, or carefully crafted manipulations. The system had confirmed them, but how much could I trust the system either? Still, debating trust wasn't useful at the moment. It didn't change my reality. I had no other choices on the table. I exhaled deeply. The entity could wait. I had other matters to focus on. Sure, my reckless actions had probably annoyed the administrator, but they had also earned me a hefty pile of credits. And now it was time to spend them. I had a plan, one that had quietly formed in my mind during my long years working under Rudy. It sounded wild back then, but maybe now it was possible. System, how much would it cost to move my reset point to this room? The cost of relocating your reset point to this room is currently not possible to calculate. Disappointing. I had hoped to avoid waking up in front of Su Yuan Fei every time. Then it hit me. Maybe I hadn't asked quite the right question. System, how much would it cost to move my reset point ahead in time? To just after I sat down in this room. Temporal advancement of reset point to that moment costs 1 credit. Note, reverting to the original reset point is currently beyond your abilities. Understood. What if I only want that forward reset point active for the next 10 resets? Cost, 20 credits. Note, this price is subject to change. That was useful. Something to keep in mind. Confirm the 1 credit purchase. Move my reset point to the moment I sat down. Confirmed. 355 credits remaining. Now, system, what's the cost of teleporting to the nearest city? Preferably to a secluded area so I don't cause a disturbance? Teleportation cost depends on distance and cultivation level. As a martial disciple level 1 with no active cultivation, teleportation to the nearest city costs 30 credits. Perfect. I just had to save 30 credits for my exit plan. That left enough for what I really wanted. Back when I was a pill servant, I had been restricted, unable to act freely, think freely. But now I had clarity, freedom, and decades worth of ideas. System, I want to help with this. I already receive a recovery pill from system storage, but I can't put anything into it. I want a storage space I can freely access, putting in and removing items at will. The cost to create a system-equivalent storage space is not currently possible to calculate. Okay, what about something simpler? A basic bag of holding. Canvas exterior, 10 cubic meters of internal space. Easy item retrieval without needing to reach in too deep. A standard low-level storage bag costs 1,000 credits. That was steep, but I smiled anyway. Now, what's the cost for a bag that carries over between resets, with all its contents intact? Cost is not currently possible to calculate. All right, how about this? A soul-bound storage space. 10 cubic meters embedded within my soul, working like a storage bag. Estimated cost, 10 million credits. What if the space is just 1 cubic meter? 1 million credits. Scaling is proportional, right? Correct. Good. Now add time, travel compatibility. The contents should remain through each reset. Cost, 2 million credits. Now I want it designed so I can expand it on my own, without the system, and buy the expansion knowledge later for no more than a few thousand credits. No more than 5x the current cost. Processing. Cost, 10 million credits. Reasonable. Let's add more features. It should support living plants and animals. Time should flow naturally inside the space, same rate as outside, but it shouldn't reset when I die. Gravity inside should match the real world. I want the ability to spiritually observe and control everything within. And eventually, I'd like the potential to physically enter the space once it's big enough. Supporting time flow, cost decrease. Allowing living entities, minimal cost decrease. Note, air, food, water, and light will not be automatically regulated. Gravity field, significant cost increase. Spiritual entry and control, already included. Physical entry with host body, request denied. Total cost for 1 cubic meter with all features, 24 million credits. Now, I want it isolated from the Tao. Nothing enters unless I allow it. Complete isolation from all Taos, not possible at this time. Isolation from the heavenly Tao and all subordinate Taos, 30 million credits. Perfect. Too expensive for now, but I had a workaround. System, I want this exact storage space, but only 8 cubic centimeters in size. A cube of 2 centimeters per side. Calculating. Cost, 240 credits. Confirm? Yes. Purchase confirmed. 115 credits remaining. I had done it. My own private storage space, and some credits left to spare. Time for the next step. System, permanently upgrade my fire affinity to peak 9-star. Cost, 75 credits. Confirm? Hold off for now. Later that day, I stood at the orb for my public assessment. What is your name? Asked the elder. Sufeng. Place your hand on the orb. Channel your chi. I did so. Fire affinity. High 9 stars. The elder muttered, clearly surprised. And your blessing? I feel deeply connected to alchemy, I answered confidently. He stared at me for a moment. Give him the burning flame mantra. Assign him to Su Rudy. Wait, what? Again? Rudy inspected me, then the scroll in my hand. High-level fire affinity, I repeated calmly. He studied me carefully before giving a tired nod. Very well. Guardsman, inform the elders that I make no promises. If he fails, it's not my responsibility. The guard bowed and exited. That will be your room, Rudy said, pointing to a familiar door. Don't leave until you reach Martial Disciple Level 4. Speed is more important than precision. An alchemist can refine poor chi later. Yes, Master Alchemist. Stop. I didn't give you permission to speak. Don't do it again. I bowed again and turned to go. Wait, what cultivation technique did you receive? The burning flame mantra. He took the scroll, skimmed it, then scoffed. Trash. This is for fighters, not alchemists. Take this instead, the guided flame mantra. It will help you control fire better. Go cultivate. Ah, classic Rudy. I did not cultivate. Instead, I made my final purchase. System, permanently upgrade my fire affinity to peak 9-star. Cost, 75 credits. Confirm? Yes. Purchase confirmed. 40 credits remaining. Was it the wisest use of credits? Maybe not. But affinity had always been the best long-term investment. Later that night, I slipped from my room. Quietly, I collected several blue peonies, some jade bottles, and entered the pill room. With careful effort, I produced my first pill, a high-purity chi gathering pill. Then, 2 more, mid-purity this time. That was all I could manage. I sealed the mid-grade pills in bottles and tucked them away. The high-grade pill, I stored it directly in my tiny personal space. Not ideal. Without a jade bottle, it would degrade, but the bottles were simply too large. In the future, I could create thin jade sheaths that fit into my space. But not now. System, teleport me to the nearest town. 30 credits. Confirm? Yes. Initiating teleport. 10 credits remaining. I arrived on the outskirts of a large city, and unsurprisingly, the system had dropped me into a shadowy alleyway tucked within a worn-down district. I was completely alone. No money, no map, and no plan beyond survival. Was leaving the Sioux clan behind a reckless decision? Maybe, but I could make it work. System, I said, what would it cost to move my reset point here for the next few resets? Cost is dependent on the number of resets. Calculating for 3 resets, 210 credits. All right, that meant I needed to make it to at least Martial Disciple level 2 before death found me again. And I could afford to teleport back here without losing too much ground. Thankfully, I had 3 chi gathering pills on hand. Reaching the second level should be as easy as breathing. My only issue now was that I didn't have a cultivation technique I trusted. In the future, I need to get one from the system, or better yet, learn how to appraise techniques myself. But that was for later. Right now, I needed rest. It was still the dead of night, and wandering unfamiliar streets in darkness didn't seem wise. I adjusted my robes to keep the grime off me and curled up in a corner of the alley. I had to trust the system had deposited me in a quiet part of town. Come morning, my first goal was simple: earn money. I had a plan for that. All I needed now was to find a place to sell pills. Stepping out of the alley, I wandered through the streets. The area I was in was undeniably a slum. Ramshackle homes barely stood, elderly women laid out faded blankets to sell vegetables, and men hacked apart livestock in the open air. Still, I blended in. My threadbare robes fit right in with the scenery. Good. That meant no unwanted attention. But it also meant I wouldn't find any wealthy buyers here. I needed a better district. Luckily, the city had been built on hilly terrain. I ascended one of the hills and took in the view. What I saw was impressive, far more expansive and developed than the medieval village I had expected. Most buildings were modest 2-story structures, but I spotted 2 distinct centers of wealth. One was a sprawling palace complex protected by high walls. The other was a towering pagoda, at least 8 stories high, built in traditional tiers. Then I saw something else, nestled in the forested hills beyond the palace. A familiar-looking compound. If I had to guess, I muttered, that's the place I was trapped in. Which makes that, I added, pointing at the palace, the Sioux clan's estate. That's definitely where I'm not going. I set off toward the pagoda. I moved with purpose, not rushing, but not loitering either. In the lower middle districts, I passed easily as a working man. In the more affluent areas, I earned a few glances, but no one challenged me. Thankfully, the pagoda wasn't fenced off. People streamed in and out in 2s and 3s, dressed like commoners. It looked like a public place. I climbed the marble stairs. Twin double doors stood open, flanked by 2 stern guards. One of them gave me a once-over and then looked away. I entered. Inside was a massive room filled with long counters displaying everything from herbs to weapons to camping gear. The place felt like a hybrid of market, an armory, and a pharmacy. Before I could explore, a young woman in a light blue cheapao with silver trim approached me. She scanned me up and down, then gave a sneer. "Can I help you, sir?" she said, her tone dry and unimpressed. Yes, I would like to." She cut me off. "Can you even afford anything here? We don't give out charity. I have something to sell." I tried to explain. Nearby customers paused to watch, snickering. What could you possibly have to sell? Get out of here before security throws you out. Defeated, I turned to leave. As I passed the doorway, one of the guards gave me a shove. "Don't come back," he growled. I walked several blocks before ducking into a narrow alley. That's when I felt a slip of paper tucked into my collar. "Hey, circle around the left side. You'll find a pub called the Dragon's Breath. Go through the alley. Behind the pub is a side entrance to the pagoda. Just walk on in." A trap? Maybe. But what did I have to lose? Following the directions, I reached a small, unassuming door in the marble foundation of the pagoda. "Hello, welcome to the Blue Wind Pavilion," came a cheerful voice. It was her, the same girl from before. She must have read my confusion. "Sorry about earlier," she said brightly. "Regulars love when we humiliate people who look poor." Most of them are secretly rich and enjoy flexing after being insulted. So we give them the treatment they want. What? I asked, baffled. Oh yeah, she nodded. Everyone fights over who gets to insult a beggar. One angry customer can earn you a year's commission if they start buying out of pride. And you thought I was rich? She laughed. Oh no, definitely not. But we still have to keep up appearances, right? Whiplash. That's what this place gave me. Anyway, she said, what can I do for you? I want to sell some pills, I mumbled, producing the bottles. She examined them. Mid-purity chi gathering pills. Not bad. I can give you 3 silvers each. What? But they're worth 10. They retail for 10, yes. But we guarantee 90% efficacy here. Yours are in the high 80s, so we'd pass them to a smaller shop. That's why the purchase price is lower. All right. She squinted at me. Let me guess. Martial Disciple 1? No Cultivation Manual? Just awakened? Where did you get these pills? Why didn't you use them yourself? And how did you not know to use the back in trance? I flinched. Those are the questions you don't want me to ask, she smiled. So 3 silver each. Actually, I said slowly, I don't mind answering. I made them myself. You made these? Her eyes lit up. A teenager with no cultivation made mid-purity pills? I have to see this. Okay. Lovely. Follow me. She led me through the cramped, lower level of the building. Boxes lined the walls, and it felt more like a pawn shop than a prestigious pavilion. 1 blue peony, she said, tossing me a flower. 50 copper. On your tab. We reached a small, dusty alchemy workshop. Lowest grade room. 2 silver per hour, she said cheerfully. Go on. Let me see. Performing under pressure wasn't ideal, but my hands remembered what to do. I burned away impurities carefully, focusing entirely on quality. After a long, tense process, I handed her the finished pill. She gave a dramatic sigh. Well, I guess it was too much to expect a mid-purity pill. But a high purity? That's impressive. She smiled. 10 silver for that. 5 each for the others. 20 total. Minus the fee and ingredient. 17 silver. 50 copper. Deal. Yeah. Deal. She handed me the money. Need anything else? Can I use this room again? You paid for the hour. Go ahead. Want more ingredients? I don't think I have the energy left. She nodded. So? Anything else? I weighed the bag of coins in my hand. Enough for a place to stay. I could survive. What's the price of a fire chi cultivation technique? She brightened. Rank 1, right? Yellow grade? Lowest quality starts at 10 gold, but those have nasty side effects. Something usable? 50 gold. Wait, yellow? What's that mean? She blinked. You don't know? Techniques are ranked by realm and grade. Rank 1 for martial disciples, rank 2 for martial masters, and so on. Grades go yellow, profound, earth, heaven, each split into low, mid, high, peak. But why those names? She smiled, reciting, the heavens are profound, the earth is yellow. It's from the 1,000-character classic. I felt something stir in my memory. My system learned language comprehension flared. Tiandi Shenhuang, heaven, earth, profound, yellow. Cosmic truth, condensed into 4 words. I see. What's the cheapest technique you'd recommend? 50 gold. Still low yellow, but not trash. Want to see? No, not yet. She tilted her head. Anything else? I took a breath. Yeah, I want to make a deal. She grinned. Perfect. Let me take you to the boss. As we walked through the underbelly of the pagoda, the young woman, May, began scribbling in her notebook. So, she asked, voice light and curious, what do you know about cultivation techniques? Not much, I admitted. I've never actually seen one. Just heard a couple names, I guess. Oh, which ones? Well, the Earth Heart Mantra. It's an Earth Chi technique, right? Yup, a bestseller, she beamed. Whenever a new family gets a little coin, it's one of their first purchases. I blinked. What? Really? Doesn't it make people, crazy? Crazy? No, she laughed. It gives people boundless confidence. I can step on anyone kind of vibe. Sounds suicidal. Exactly. That's the point. People don't buy it for themselves. They pass it to their guards. Makes them fight like madmen, even when hopelessly outmatched. Good if you're rich and want meat shields who won't flinch. Still sounds like a bad deal. She just shrugged. What else have you heard of? The guided flame mantra? Her smile vanished. Oof. Nasty one. Slav technique. We carry it, but it's one of those, only if you have paperwork, types. We walked in silence for a few more minutes, until we reached a winding staircase. Let's go, she said, placing her notebook on a table before ascending. We climbed 2 flights, emerging onto a quiet balcony that overlooked the grand showroom below. Don't worry, they can't see us up here, she said with a grin. A formation makes the balcony look like part of the wall. Come, let me show you around. She took me on a casual tour, pointing out departments, staff quirks, and price differences. After a half hour of this strange hospitality, we finally stopped in front of an ornate wooden door. Here we are, she said. The boss's office. Without knocking, she shoved it open. Hey, boss man, got a kid here. He wants to make a deal with you. The man inside looked to be in his late 20s. He rose from behind a meticulously clean desk, crossed the room, and grabbed my hand before I could offer it. Welcome, he laughed warmly. Chen Wujing. I manage this branch. Call me Wujing. And you? Sufang. Great name. Mind if I call you Fong? No, not at all. Perfect. Cool me, seat. Instead of leading me to the desk, he guided me to a few armchairs off to the side. You're here for a cultivation technique, right? He asked, already pouring tea into 2 cups. Yeah, I answered cautiously. I'll look forward to working with you, he said, but I couldn't ignore the gnawing feeling in my gut. Something was off. This wasn't how people treated street-ragged strangers. He must have caught my expression. He chuckled. There it is. That look. I know this feels strange. Let me level with you. I nodded, letting him speak. Blue Wind Pavilion isn't just some shop, he explained. We're a continental force. We've got branches in nearly every city, powerful cultivators, and a martial sovereign at the helm. He handed me a cup of tea. This city? It's poor. There's no money to be made here. But we're not only here for profit. We're here for talent. People like you. He gestured to May, who stood smugly nearby. May has no affinity. Can't cultivate at all. Her clan threw her out like trash. But she's my most valuable asset. What? Blessings, he said simply. Maze lets her instinctively know the best way to interact with someone. She doesn't even know what result she's after. It's just the best possible. He held up her notebook. She wrote down exactly how I should behave with you. And I followed it to the letter. I'm not even thinking for myself right now. I trust her judgment. Boss, May said, blushing and stomping her foot. I gave him a great deal. She probably swindled you out of at least 10%, Wu Jing said with a grin. She's a wolf. He handed me the notebook. Inside, her handwriting was neat and terrifying. Careful with this one. Personality is very unique. Be completely open and honest. Lies will be self-defeating. Don't ask about his background. Give direct pricing. Won't haggle. Use given names. Always act like everyone is equal. Behavior should mimic a commoner in a restaurant. There was more, but I stopped reading. Why are you showing me this? I asked. Because honesty is how we get results with you. May said so. Then he leaned forward. My own blessing? Not as clear-cut. I get vague impressions, feelings of how important someone is to me. Most people show up like candles. You. He pointed directly at me. You're a bonfire. I don't know your deal, but we need to work together. He walked to a side table with 3 scrolls and a paper. Here are your options. He pointed to the first scroll. Option 1. Flickering Flame Mantra. The weakest fire chi technique I've ever seen. Worthless for warriors, but perfect for alchemists because of its precise control. We usually sell it for 50 gold, but since you'll be paying in loans, it'll cost you 100 gold, payable through alchemy work. Simple exchange. No strings. That he gestured to the second scroll. Option 2. Bright Candle Mantra. Mid-yellow rank 1. Normal cost is 100 gold. Same loan structure, but you become a guest alchemist for the pavilion. We get first dibs on your pills, and you get minor perks, discounts, ingredient access, and such. Then he carefully placed his hand on the third scroll. Option 3. Low Profound Technique. Not for sale. We'll give it to you for free. But there's a catch. You become a full member of the Blue Wind Pavilion. We'll find you a master, guide your training, give you resources, but you must tell us your blessing. We'll test it. If it proves valuable, the scroll is yours. But no secrecy allowed. Lastly, he tapped the lone piece of paper. Option 4. A recruitment slip for the Twin Mountains sect. They'll recruit alchemists in 2 months. No cultivation requirements, just the ability to make pills. We'll house and feed you until then, and buy your pills at standard rates. He leaned back and watched me think. Option 3 was off the table. I couldn't explain my blessing. Not truthfully. Option 1 or 2 were doable, but they left me blind. No recipes, no direction, no support. I'd be alone, struggling in a world I barely understood. The sect, though, that gave me a timeline, a structure, and a clear goal. Yeah, I said, finally, eyes steady. I guess you're right. I gotta go with joining the sect. My time at the Blue Wind Pavilion was the closest thing to a vacation I'd had since I first started dying. Ever since my first rebirth, life had been a slow tumble into madness, panic, and desperation. But here, I had real downtime. No one trying to kill me. No life-threatening situations. No backstabbing sect politics. Just peace and quiet and a warm bed. Of course, that didn't mean I was idle. I didn't even have a cultivation technique I trusted enough to use yet. So there was no question of pushing myself. My only job was making a few pills a day. 2 or 3 max. Then I'd collapse onto the soft mattress and wait for the next day. Rinse, repeat. At first, I had thought about exploring the city, Dragon Gate City, as it turned out, but the memory of the Sioux clan made me reconsider. There was no telling if they were searching for a vanished pill boy. Better to stay inside and stay forgotten. The pavilion, to its credit, treated me well. The pricing felt almost fair. Peonies? 50 copper. Workshop rental? 2 silver an hour. Room and board? 6 silver a day. A bit steep, maybe, but considering this was the most luxurious building in the city, I wasn't going to complain. And a single high-purity pill a day more than covered the costs. The rest? Pure profit. For once, I wasn't just surviving, I was saving. 12 silvers a day added up fast. When I wasn't resting or working, I learned what I could about the world outside. The biggest surprise? The Sioux clan, as tyrannical as they were, weren't nearly as strong as I'd thought. Apparently, any of the nearby powers could have wiped them out if they wanted to. They just didn't. Good to know. One day, if I ever went full revenge tour, I might actually have a shot. Still, before revenge came preparation. One lingering issue bugged me. My emergency pill had degraded. I tucked it into my storage space weeks ago, thinking I could pull it out during a future loop. But when I checked on it, it was useless. Its medicinal power had leaked out. A waste. The solution? A prupe pil botla. Normally, these are made of cheap, low-grade jade, enough to keep pills stable for a little while. But my storage space was tiny, just 2 centimeters across in all directions. Standard bottles were too bulky. I needed one with paper-thin walls made from high-grade jade, expertly crafted. Expensive? Extremely. It cost me over 2 gold coins, almost a full month's profits. Worth it? Absolutely. Having a pill ready at the start of each reset could be the difference between life and death. Next came my travel expenses. Safe passage to the Twin Mountains sect's recruitment site cost another 50 silver. When it was all said and done, I left Dragon Gate City with just over 3 gold in my pocket. Not rich, but a hell of a lot better than when I started. The Twin Mountains sect held its election in a town called River Rock, a sleepy little place nestled right outside the sect's main gate. Getting there wasn't quick. Close is a relative term in a world this big. It still took days in a carriage. Thankfully, I rode in a coach marked with the Blue Wind Pavilion seal. Nobody messed with those. The Western Wastes were considered a relatively safe region already, and the pavilion's symbol only reinforced that. For most of the trip, I had the coach to myself. Peaceful, quiet, and calm. Until the last day, at one of the stops, a young man climbed into the carriage and immediately wrinkled his nose when he saw me. "What? There's already someone in here?" he sneered. "HMPF. My father will hear about this." I was promised a private journey. I gave him a slight nod of apology and looked out the window, hoping he'd get the message. He didn't. "Boy," he snapped. Are you going to Twin Mountain sect too? I doubt they'd accept someone like you. Only the talented need apply. I stayed quiet. Very well then. You shall be my lackey. He sat back smugly. Follow behind me when we arrive. Do what I say, and maybe, my father will let you become a servant. I am from the Wang family of prospering Prosperity Village, the most powerful force for miles around. I tuned him out after that. At some point, he might have even started threatening me, but honestly, I don't remember. What could he do anyway? This was a pavilion coach. He wouldn't dare lay a hand on me here. Looking back, was it smart to ignore him? Probably not. But a month of relative peace had dulled my edge. I forgot I was still in a world of vipers. 3 days out from Dragon Gate City, we arrived in River Rock. The Wong brat had already gotten off earlier, thankfully. I was dropped off at a quiet inn where I could rest. Tomorrow would be the first day of the selection process. River Rock was a town that only came alive once a year during recruitment. Thousands of hopefuls poured in from all corners of the Western Wastes. Some were fighters, others alchemists, but all of them came with dreams of ascension. The influx of talent created a powder keg. Too many hot-headed cultivators with too little patience in too small a space. The sect didn't interfere. This, too, was part of their test. If you couldn't survive the chaos, you didn't deserve to join. Still, I had no interest in brawling. I stayed in my room, avoided attention, and waited for the actual selection. The morning of the event, I finally stepped outside. The roads were quieter now. Tension hung in the air. Excitement, dread, hunger. That's when I heard a voice call out. There he is. That's the cur who insulted his betters yesterday. I turned. The Wong brat was pointing at me, flanked by 5 other cultivators. Next to him stood another man. I froze. Brother Tianlei. I recognized him instantly from a past life. He had stood beside Rudy the day I was tortured to death. What was he doing here? Brother Tianlei, Wong said, groveling, that's him. He didn't show you any face at all. If he doesn't kneel today, I'll write my name backward. Tianlei gave me a look of pure disdain. Do you know who you've offended? I'll be the #1 disciple of this sect, and you dare disrespect me? Lightning crackled across his arms. I swallowed my pride. I bowed deeply. I have long heard of Brother Tianlei's great name. I would never dream of offending you. I am truly sorry. I considered blaming Wong, but realized that'd be suicide. They'd deal with me first, then each other later. Tianlei smirked. You know your place. You'll follow me from now on. Brother Tianlei, I am not worthy, I said, lowering into a kowtow. I will disappear from your sight. Are you questioning me? He growled. No, sir. I am not worthy. He kicked me in the shoulder. I collapsed. Still not listening? Another kick. Then another. I coughed blood. Then he laughed. Fine. Don't want to follow? Then crawl into my crotch. I didn't hesitate. I dragged myself forward, crawling beneath his legs. His group exploded into laughter. Let's go, Tianlei chuckled. Time for the selection. They left, and I stayed down. Not because of shame, but because I was hurt, and because moving might draw their attention again. When I finally stood, my clothes were shredded. I had no spares. I looked like a beggar. But the selection was starting, and I had no time to fix anything. Covered in dust, bruised and bleeding, I limped toward the sect. This was the price of survival. The square was enormous. An ancient courtyard of pale, time-worn stones, cracked and pitted from centuries of use. I stood at its edge, one hopeful among thousands, as would-be disciples pressed shoulder to shoulder, all dreaming of the same fate. On the far end of the square, a raised dais overlooked us. There sat a single middle-aged man, calm and unreadable, watching the crowd gather with the patience of someone who didn't feel the need to explain himself. To either side of him rose 2 towering python arches, each framing a road that twisted into the wilderness beyond. Behind them stood the towering silhouettes of the sect's namesake, the Twin Mountains. From where I stood, I could see little beyond dense forest and the rocky, weather-worn peaks above. I had expected to arrive late. In truth, I stood waiting in the sun for over an hour before anything happened. Eventually, the man on the dais stood. Welcome, all, to the disciple selection of my Twin Mountains sect, he said, his voice clear and calm. Though we are a humble sect, we do not turn away those with the strength and fortune to walk our path. Should fate favor you, all here may be accepted. Polite applause rippled through the crowd. Some smiled with hope. Others, less innocent, smirked with arrogance. He gestured to the arches beside him. To the right, you will find the martial peak, home to our warriors and guardians. If your heart burns with ambition and strength, that is your road. To the left, the alchemy peak, our crucible of refinement and intellect. Then came the requirements. Only martial disciples of level 6 or above, and under the age of 18, were permitted to walk the warrior's path. Alchemy, however, was open to all. Once the conditions were announced, he allowed time for anyone to leave. No one did. Selections will proceed in groups of 500, he concluded. When the arch is full, a barrier will rise. Wait for the next round. That is all. With that, he sat. The square buzzed with movement as people surged forward. As each hopeful passed through an arch, they vanished, teleported elsewhere. I blinked in surprise. I'd once calculated that teleporting a person across a city cost the energy of a full martial disciple 3. And this sect was teleporting thousands just for dramatic effect? Curious, wasteful, suspicious. I held back, which turned out to be a very wise choice. As the warrior arch filled with young, eager cultivators, a sudden blast of lightning exploded outward. Dozens were thrown back screaming, smoke rising from singed robes and burned skin. I didn't know how many were injured, or worse. The man on the dais didn't react, right? No need to rush. Hours passed. The alchemy arch cycled far more slowly. Only after nearly 3 hours did the first group complete their trial. When the next cycle began, I seized the chance and stepped forward. The world twisted. In a blink, I found myself in another square, nearly identical to the first. A new dais, a new arch. The only difference, this courtyard was filled not with people, but with alchemical workstations. Hundreds of them. A young man in official robes addressed us with clear disinterest. Stand in front of a workstation. Touch nothing until instructed. Anyone who disobeys will be expelled. I slipped into a spot near the center. Neither too bold, nor too hidden. Just another face in the crowd. As everyone found their station, silence fell, then the elder on the dais rose. An old man with silver hair and a sharp, assessing gaze. "Welcome," he said, "to the alchemy disciple selection. I am Elder Mu, an outer sect elder. I hope to greet you again as disciples in the future." He gestured toward a display table in front of him. Before each of you lies a simple setup. 2 scrolls. The first is a fire tribute Qi cultivation technique. It is yours to learn, should you choose. This technique is necessary for those who have not yet cultivated fire Qi, and it will aid in pill refinement. Do not fear your disadvantage. You are not in competition with one another. If you succeed, that is enough. He grinned. Some of you have heard this as a chance to gain a free technique. That is true. You may not take the scroll with you, but you are free to continue practicing it afterward. If you cannot reach sufficient mastery to create a pill today, I encourage you to return next year. Murmurs broke out. Eyes lit up. A few began trying to sneak glances at the scrolls already. But I felt only suspicion. A free cultivation technique for anyone who showed up? No strings attached. Either the sect was far more generous than expected, or it was a trap. Slave mantras? Hidden marks? Or maybe just something more subtle. I didn't know yet, but I wouldn't be using the technique. Still, that didn't mean I couldn't memorize it. "System," I murmured, "can you create a sort of mental bookshelf? A perfect memory for every technique I read." System response, "Yes. This is a form of perfect recall. If limited to techniques only, the cost is reduced. Une rente technique, sans crédit. Rank 1, 1,000 credits. Each additional rank multiplies cost by 10. Only the ones I read after purchasing? Correct. It will only record what you personally see." I sighed. Of course. And I suppose there's a cost increase by rank, because... What? Fancier ink. Do you wish to purchase the reason? No, I really don't. I let the matter go. Too costly, too uncertain. I could try memorizing it the old-fashioned way later. I set the technique scroll aside. I already knew how to refine a chi-gathering pill, so I ignored the instructions too. Time to work. The goal was simple. Make pills using the blue peonies provided. Each person had 10. The pills were graded by purity. Low, middle, high, and perfect. Low earned 1 point. Middle 5. High 10. Perfect 30. 5 points were needed to pass. I only had enough energy for maybe 3 tries. That meant I had to choose. Play it safe and go for quantity or gamble on quality. I decided to hedge my bets. I could almost always produce a high-purity pill if I focused, but that wasn't worth the risk here. I refined 3 pills efficiently, carefully, without flair. All 3 came out as middle purity. 15 points. Mission accomplished. I glanced around. Dozens of workstations were already empty. Maybe they'd stopped after 1 pill. Maybe they'd failed. Either way, it wasn't a race. I gathered my pills and the 7 leftover flowers and made my way to the front. The proctor took my submission without emotion. 3 mid-purity. 15 points. Here's your identity jade. He handed me a bracelet, green jade embedded in metal. The extra peonies are yours. Go through the red arch to enter the sect. Good luck. As I stepped through the red arch, the world twisted again. For a moment, I thought nothing had changed. The sky and mountains were still in the same place, the sunlight unchanged. But the workbenches and bustling alchemists had vanished entirely. It felt like walking through a mirror, stepping back into the courtyard I had just left, until the world subtly shifted. Trees faded away, replaced by squat, orderly buildings. A new disciple stood ahead, surrounded by several familiar faces from the alchemist trial. Wait here, the disciple said, arms folded. We need 10 before we can get going. It shouldn't be long. He was right. In under 10 minutes, 3 more arrived. All right, that's 10. Let's get started. First off, congratulations on passing the test. You're now nominal disciples of the Twin Mountains sect. That means you've earned both privileges and responsibilities. But don't get comfortable. You're not full disciples yet. Mess up, and you're out. He gave us a sharp look, pausing to make sure everyone was listening. The rules haven't changed. No outside pills. No fighting. No pressure or coercion. No interference. The elders take these rules seriously. So should you. After making sure we all understood, he continued, now we'll get you to your apartments. You'll each have a roommate, someone who's been here at least a year. They'll help you settle in and explain how things work. He started walking, and we followed. The deeper we went, the more surreal it became. There were hundreds of buildings, none of which I'd seen from outside. The dense forest we'd passed through had hidden this whole community from sight. A walled-off world inside the sect. Disciples filled the streets, most no older than 20. A few elders moved quietly among them. The place was alive with energy, a constant churn of motion and voices. How many people live here? I asked. The guide shrugged. Hard to say. We get 5,000 or 6,000 new people every year. Half drop out in the first year. Still adds up over time. I'd guess 80 or 90,000. Could be more. All of them sect members? Only half. The rest, like you, are nominal disciples. Not full members. The full members here are just servant disciples, really. A bit better off, sure, but if you go that route, you're giving up on becoming part of the outer sect. Most of us keep the dream alive. Eventually, we reached our destination, a block of apartment buildings towering 7 or 8 stories high. The structures had the curved roofs and wooden facades of traditional Chinese architecture, but there was no denying what they were, apartment complexes. Even I was impressed. These buildings rivaled the tallest in Dragon Gate City. Nice, right? The disciple grinned. Not a lot of room to build out, so we build up. A few guys with Earth Chi built these back in the day. Good work too, barely ever creak. He pulled a handful of keys from his robes. Here, your room numbers are on them. First 2 digits are the building, next is the floor, last 2 are the room. Go find your place. Your roommate'll take it from there. He waved and left. Our group began to disperse. My key read 18712. Building 18 was right next to the tree line. Everyone else seemed to be headed there too, many toward the upper floors. Strange. Weren't top floors usually the best? Why give them to newbies? Then I climbed the stairs. By the third flight, I had my answer. No elevators. No assistance. Just stairs. I was already calculating how badly I needed a stamina-boosting cultivation technique. When I finally reached my room and opened the door, I was surprised at how spacious it was. Bigger than my college dorm, and it only had 2 people. "Welcome, come on in," boomed a friendly voice. I turned to see a grinning man about my age, waving enthusiastically. "I'm Bao Wen. Nice to meet you." I blinked. "Ooh, Su Feng." "Likewise." "Great. Well, this is the room. Not much to see. That's your sleeping roll and your chest over there. If you want a proper cultivation mat, you'll need to buy it yourself. I've never had the spare points, so I used the roll. Works well enough." He talked fast, but not in an overwhelming way, more like someone used to welcoming strangers. "There's a balcony too. Not much else. Have you eaten?" "Just finished the trial." "Perfect. Let's go." Cafeteria's got some decent stuff. I followed him back down the stairs, legs already protesting. We passed row after row of buildings before arriving at a hall near the residential block. Inside, rows of tables filled the wide room, and along one wall were partitioned windows where food was being served. Bao brought me to one of the serving counters. "This is my favorite. Got your identity, Jade? Just pop it on the reader." I did. A beep confirmed the transaction, and the worker handed me a tray of food: rice, tomato egg stir-fry, shredded potatoes, and pork curry. Not bad at all. We found a table. The conversation stayed light. Bao was a talker, and I let him do most of the work. He told me about his childhood in a poor farming village. His family grew peonies, apparently a common herb crop in the region. He'd gotten his blessing at 16 and discovered a deep affinity for herbs. That led him to the sect. He failed the selection his first year, spent a year cultivating the fire chi technique, and returned. Passed on the second try. That was 5 years ago. He'd been here ever since. "So, know why you're stuck with me as a roommate?" I shook my head. He grinned. "Come on, I'll show you." He led me to a new block. Massive buildings, big as hangars. "Those are the alchemy workshops," he explained. "First 2 floors are open to all. You can brew pills anytime you want. Gets crowded around noon, but usually there's space. If you want privacy, though, that costs contribution points." He pointed to another structure. "That's the provisions hall. Most important place in the sect. You buy ingredients there. You sell pills there. Contribution points only. No gold, no barter." "Where are contribution points?" I asked. "Points are money," Bao replied. "Everything here runs on them. Gold is worthless inside the sect. Every month, you need 30 points for food and a place to live. If you can't pay, you're gone." He hesitated, rubbing his neck. "I volunteer to be your roommate. Gets me a 10-point discount on room and board. Not much, but it helps. You get 3 months free. After that, you're on your own." He pulled out a jade bottle and waved it. "There's only one way for nominal disciples to earn points: sell pills. Basic chi, gathering pills, same as the test. Low purity is worth 1 point, mid is 5, high is 10. Peonies cost 5 points each." "Yeah, brutal." I frowned. "That doesn't add up. What about the people who only made 1 or 2 pills? They'll be bankrupt in weeks." "True," Bao nodded. "That's why most people use the first 3 months to train. With the fire chi technique and practice, they should be able to hit high purity eventually. If not, well." He trailed off, then smiled again. "There's a gray area. You can't force people to give you pills, but you can buy them. Plenty of disciples will trade pills for gold. Officially, gold's worthless, but unofficially, it's a future investment." I raised an eyebrow. "So, that's how people survive?" "More or less. Anyway, almost done. One last stop." He guided me to another set of buildings. "Lecture halls," he said, gesturing to the cluster. "Public lessons happen there. Free for now, focused on getting you to make high-purity pills. Private lessons cost points." Then he pointed at a different building. "That's the technique hall. Has all the basic manuals, low to high yellow rank, and tons of fire chi techniques. You'll probably spend every spare point there." He turned to me and smiled. "That's the grand tour. Any questions? I opened my mouth. Nope. Good. He clapped me on the back. I got pills to make. Catch you later. And with that, he was gone. I had two clear goals: improve my alchemy and improve my cultivation. Unfortunately, I was too drained to work on pills. That left cultivation. But to cultivate properly, I needed a technique. So, I made my way to the technique hall. Inside, towering shelves held tomes and scrolls of all shapes and sizes. But I quickly realized I was out of my depth. I had no idea where to even start. I spotted a man standing behind the front counter and decided to ask. "Hello," I said. "Can you tell me where the cultivation techniques are?" "No need to look," he replied. "We keep all cultivation techniques behind the counter. What you see out there are skills, combat arts, support techniques, stuff like that. For cultivation, we've got just one line, the sect's fire chi technique. Comes in 3 ranks, low, mid, and high yellow. Want anything better? You'll need special approval. What are the prices? 50 points for low yellow. Then it multiplies by 5 each tier, 250 for mid, 1250 for high." I frowned. "Are there different techniques?" He laughed. "Not really. It's the same technique, just refined and upgraded at each tier. What you use during the exam. That's the low yellow version. Actually, that one's technically even lower. Lowest yellow, if you ask me." I hesitated, then asked the question I was most concerned about. "Do they have any mental effects?" "Oh, of course," he said cheerfully. "They're perfect for alchemists. Calms the mind, soothes your emotions, helps focus your thoughts. You don't want to be furious while refining pills, right?" I pushed a little further. "Any chance I could find one without any mental side effects?" He gave me a long look. "Let me guess. You want a powerful, high-level technique, and you don't want it touching your mind?" "That would be ideal, yes." He snorted. "Well, I don't have one, but I do have a spear and shield to sell you." "What?" "It's a joke, kid. It's impossible. Cultivation changes you, body and mind. People want those effects. Helps keep you stable. Be glad you've got access to something solid." I left the technique hall dispirited. He wasn't wrong. Cultivation reshaped the entire body. Why wouldn't it touch the mind too? But still, there had to be a difference between natural emotional clarity and being shaped by outside intent. "System," I asked quietly, "can I buy a cultivation technique with no mental side effects?" "Yes. Anything can be purchased." So, he was lying. Calculating. Relevant information available for 10 credits. 10 credits. Practically everything I had. But did it matter? If this helped secure my foundation, wasn't it worth it? Go ahead. Spend them. Confirmed. 0 credits remaining. You can purchase a cultivation technique with no mental side effects. A high heaven rank 1 technique costs 1 crystal. All rank 1 cultivation techniques are included at that price. Wait, crystal? What's that? Credits contain the energy of a martial tier cultivator. Crystals contain the energy of a god that has surpassed the heavenly Tao. Oh, I think I understood the message. The influence on the mind wasn't some sneaky trick. It was a law of the heavenly Tao. If I wanted to defy it, I need to operate above it. I wasn't there yet. Time to work within the rules. With that clarity, I decided on my path. I needed a cultivation technique, and I needed it now. I could maybe make 2 high-purity basic pills a day, 20 points if I was lucky. Scraping together 250 points for the mid-yellow manual would be a slog and leave me broke. 50 points for the low-yellow version was a safer start. Would it harm my foundation long-term? Maybe, but stagnating wouldn't help either. Time to make drugs. Over the next 3 days, I processed the 7 remaining peonies. 3 high-grade pills. For mid-grade. As soon as I finished, I headed to the provisions hall. The place was small, surprisingly unremarkable. I handed over my pills. The clerk gave me 50 points. Just like that, I had a balance. What I hadn't expected was the bonus. Because I had earned 15 points during the selection exam, the sect awarded me 150 special contribution points. They couldn't be used to buy techniques or lessons, but they could buy ingredients. A huge advantage. Some people had clearly used the selection exam to stockpile capital. I decided to hold off on spending them and rush straight back to the technique hall. Exchanging for the low-yellow manual went smoothly. I was ready to sprint back and start cultivating when I caught myself. I wasn't some desperate dropout anymore. I had resources now. Support. At the very least, I could afford to be smart. I still had time before I could brew another pill, so I browsed the posted lectures. Dozens of options. A martial master's insight into cultivation cost anywhere from 10 to 100 contribution points, varying based on class size and the teacher's rank. But I wasn't sold. University had taught me how much you really don't learn in a lecture. Instead, I looked at the one-on-one tutoring options. Some were outrageous, thousands of points for an hour. But to my surprise, a few were listed for just 50. I went to the receptionist to ask. She was a kindly older woman with sharp eyes and a half-smile that said she'd seen it all. "Excuse me," I asked, "what's the difference between a 50-point tutor and a 5,000-point one?" She smiled knowingly. "The expensive ones are outer sect elites. Most of the time, they aren't really teaching. Those lessons are about connections. Buy their time, make an impression. Might help you later." She leaned in slightly. "Now the cheap ones? They're real. Young, desperate, try and claw their way up. Every failed pill costs 30 points. And if you can't make high purity, well, you're bleeding money. They'll actually teach because they need those 50 points." I thanked her and left. It was time to invest. Using 30 of my special points, I bought enough herbs to make a couple more pills and sold them for enough general contribution to pay for a private lesson. The teacher I chose was Xianxia. She looked to be in her late 20s, but with cultivation, she could have been 50. She greeted me politely, explained her credentials, and made no promises. She was still a novice herself, but the advice she shared? Solid. First, chi purity was paramount. Better to spend 5 years on perfecting one realm than to jump levels with flawed chi. For alchemists, it was even more critical: purity-shaped flame control. It meant the difference between precise heat and wild combustion. Second, she mentioned support techniques. There were many available for sale that improved temperature control, accuracy, and flame shaping. Chow called them crutches. Useful, but ultimately something to grow past. Third, she shared something I'd always wondered about: meridians. Martial disciples simply stored chi in their bodies. Martial masters had meridians, channels allowing chi to flow freely. A half-step master had one. Level 1 had 2. Peak had 12. Creating them required a rank 2 cultivation technique, completely different from what I had now. Fourth, she advised on acupoint opening order. I had gone with arms, chest, legs, the standard. But for alchemists, the hand were most important. That was where chi control mattered most. Open them first for early power, or last for maximum purity. Her advice: upper arms first, hands last, a balanced approach. Finally, she helped me refine my chi filtering technique. Though she couldn't teach me her mid-yellow version, her insights improved my own low-yellow practice drastically. It was, without a doubt, 50 points well spent. Afterward, I returned to my room to cultivate. No pills. Chow had warned against them. Even high-purity pills introduced toxins and interfered with purification. Better to use them only at bottlenecks. So I worked slowly, deliberately. No looming deadlines. No desperate trial. For the first time, I cultivated right. I worked on purity, filtering again and again. Eventually, I hit a wall: 80% purity. The low-yellow technique couldn't take me any higher. Still, it was more than I'd ever achieved. I pressed forward and, after a month of effort, opened my first acupoint. I was officially Martial Disciple 2 once more. But the celebration was short-lived. I had 1 month left before rent was due, and I was back to 0 points. Time to start moving some bricks. The rest of the month, I focused on one thing: cash flow. Thankfully, reaching Martial Disciple 2 gave me more energy to work with. Unfortunately, it didn't give me the freedom I'd imagined. I thought I'd be concocting pills non-stop, recovering chi through cultivation, turning myself into a money-making machine. But my lesson with Chow Mylan had made one thing very clear: purity matters. Yes, chi naturally regenerates. Slowly, almost lazily, like osmosis or digestion. Maybe it converts calories. Maybe the body draws ambient chi through the skin. I didn't care how it worked, just that it did. but force cultivation to replenish chi, that had side effects. Say my chi purity was 80%. When I used up my fire chi for pill refining, what remained was mixed and chaotic. If I then cultivated again to refill it, the new batch came with its own impurities. Over time, that 80% would slip, slowly, subtly, from 80% to 79.9%, then 79.8%, a silent slide into failure. It wasn't exponential decay, thankfully, but it was real and dangerous. I wanted to reach Martial Master. This time I wanted to break through. I wasn't going to sacrifice my foundation for a few extra pills. Still, at the end of the 3-month mark, I was feeling good. Rent? Paid. Contribution points? Stacked. I had optimized my process. I could make 5 pills a day, with about half coming out high purity. That gave me an average of 40 points a day, at least for the 6 days before my special contribution points ran out. After that, I had to start covering ingredient costs myself, which brought my profit down to around 15 points a day. Still, by the end of 3 months, I had earned it felt almost too easy. 2 more months, and I could afford that high yellow cultivation technique. I couldn't help but wonder, why didn't everyone do this? Bao had an answer ready when I asked him. Because it's too hard, he said, exasperated. Most people don't skip levels. They go from free to low, then low to mid. High yellow takes work. It's more complicated, harder to learn. And most of us are spending our time on alchemy instead. But a better technique makes your alchemy better, doesn't it? Well, yeah, sure, but by the time most folks master the mid-yellow, they're at peak disciple, ready to break into master. Why hang around, try to grind money when you're that close to breaking through? Fair enough. Still seemed short-sighted to me, but their life, their loss. Anyway, Bao continued, switching gears. Are you going to the tournament? Tournament? Bao good one. You really do just work all day. It's the annual alchemy tournament. Top 5 get promoted to outer sect disciple. Top 3 get something even better, a spirit flame. That's the ticket to becoming a master alchemist. What? How is that a prize? He looked at me like I'd asked why water was wet. You need a spirit flame to become a master alchemist. Can't make rank 2 pills without one. This is the only shot most of us get. Get in the top 3, get the flame, become a master alchemist. Done. He didn't let me say no. Before I could argue, he grabbed my arm and physically dragged me to the arena. The stadium was massive. Stone seats wrapped around a huge, open field. Bow seats were up high, but we had a good view. Wow, I said, it'd be great for sports. Do they have sports here? Bao shot me a look. Yes, a lot of them. You need a hobby, man. I looked down at the field. Dozens of workbenches were set up in neat rows. Only 100 places? That's it. Brother Sue, he sighed. There are thousands of applicants. Prelims have been going on for a month. This is the top 100. Everyone else? Eliminated. Oh, right. What was the test like? Bao's eyes lit up. They were given a brand new pill recipe, one no one had seen before. To pass, you just had to make a pill. Didn't matter if it was trash. But to make the top 100? That was based on medicinal efficacy. Number 100 barely scraped in with 22%. I winced. That was brutal. The final round's way easier, Bao said. All they have to do is make 5 superior chi gathering pills. But here's the catch. Only high-purity pills count. Anything below that, tossed. What if someone makes a perfect pill? Bao Lauget. If someone makes a perfect pill at this level, the sect will drag them into the inner sect today. Disciple alchemists don't make perfects. It doesn't happen. The tournament began. The recipe was familiar. Blue peony base, astragalus for improved, Xianxia berries for superior. The trick wasn't the formula. It was the execution. Lower-ranked competitors peeled the Xianxia berries to remove their toxic skin. The top contenders didn't bother. They'd incinerate the toxins with raw chi. Then came the refining. It was stunning. Where my chi wrapped flowers gently like a warm shell, they're struck like scalpels, precise, brutal, refined. Their control was surgical. They didn't coax the pill into existence. They commanded it. The match lasted hours, but I couldn't look away. I was watching art. No, mustard. Every single finalist made 5 high-purity pills. Every. Single. 1. All above 90% efficacy. The champion? A woman with 3 pills at 96% and 2 at 97%. A total of 482% efficacy. That level of skill. I wasn't even in the same universe. After it ended, I sat silently. Bao had done me a favor. I needed to see this. Needed to understand how far I had to go. I hadn't seen enough to copy their techniques. But even from this distance, I could feel it. They were worlds ahead of me in chi control. The way they manipulated fire was leagues beyond anything I could do. Not technique, not knowledge, pure skill. Brother Bao, I said, I need to improve my chi control. Someone told me to train my raw skill instead of relying on techniques. Do you know how? Bao grinned. Sure, come with me. He took me back to the provisions hall. Turns out, the tiny front room was just the storefront. I had never noticed the actual shop behind it. A sprawling supply depot full of gear, scrolls, mats, and tools for cultivation. I'd walk past this every time. Our goal was a section of shelves covered in hundreds of small index card-sized packets, arranged neatly in a 5x4 grid. These are training cards, Bao explained. Servant disciples make them. Big pain in the ass, apparently. Each packet has 50 cards. The rows go from easy to hard. Columns represent different skills: accuracy, insulation, speed, and power. He pulled a pack from the top left. Let's start with accuracy. I offered to pay, since I had money now. Bao tried to argue, but I convinced him. His help was already more than enough. Back at our apartment, he laid out the first card. Plain white, with a thick black line across the center. This is your target, he said. Channel your chi into the card, and try to burn away the black line. Touch the white. The card's gone. These beginner cards are forgiving, but they get harsher fast. He flipped through some examples. Some had mazes, others had spirals or symbols. They'd clearly get much harder later. You don't have much chi at Martial Disciple 2, which is fine. These cards barely need any. Just keep your control light and steady. And don't even think about doing the power ones yet. Stick with accuracy. I sat down and began. I used the same approach I used on peonies. Form a shell of chi, mold it to shape, and burn toxins away. This time, I pushed chi from the center of the card outward. Easy enough on the straight lines, but the corners? Impossible. I tried to shape my chi into right angles, but it resisted. Kept flowing too wide. Eventually, I slipped. The card flared, then turned to ash. Hey, Bao said not bad. I didn't get that far on my first try. He gave me a tip. You're trying to shape the chi into a box. That's hard. Instead, think of it like a needle. A super thin beam of chi. Burn just a little bit at a time. It'll take longer, but it'll help with corners. He showed me, his chi slicing across the air like a surgeon's scalpel. In the end, you want to do both. Thick and thin. But for now, needle. I nodded, grateful. Thank you, Brother Bao. He laughed and slapped my shoulder. Don't treat me like a stranger. This is what brothers are for. The next few months weren't kind to my finances. I burned through more contribution points than I had anticipated, all in the name of one goal: improving my fire chi control. Ever since watching the alchemy tournament, I knew. I'd seen it with my own eyes. Raw cultivation level didn't matter. Techniques didn't matter. Until I could handle my chi like the people on that stage, everything else was fantasy. Sure, I could attempt more advanced pills. Maybe get lucky. But producing anything below high purity was throwing money into the cauldron just to watch it burn. If I was gonna burn money, I figured I might as well burn the damn index cards. Some days, I truly wanted to set that whole store on fire. Even with Bao's guidance, progress was excruciatingly slow. Guiding fire chi to the edge of a pattern, but not over it, felt like threading a needle with a flame. Think of your chi like a knife, Bao had said. Like a needle, thin and sharp. The problem? My chi was about as sharp as boiled tofu. Trying to mold it into a dagger only produced something that resembled rusted metal melted in salt water. A twisted, patchy mess. I thought I was doing it wrong, but Bao just laughed. That's how it is at the start. You just need time. So I gave it time. I burned through card after card in a manic haze. When my energy got low, I made pills to restock contribution points. My entire life turned into a loop. Train, deplete, work, recover, repeat. Eventually, I gave in and began cultivating more aggressively. Natural regeneration just wasn't fast enough anymore. I opened my upper left arm acupoint, advancing to Martial Disciple 3. Yes, this would taint the purity of chi in that arm, but only that arm. As a Martial Disciple, my chi was still localized. Once I hit Martial Master, it would circulate freely, and then impurities would spread like ink in water. But until then, the damage was compartmentalized and worth it. With more energy at my disposal, progress improved. Noticeably, 5 months later, I did it. I completed the entire first set of accuracy cards. That left me with a decision. Option 1. Use the points I had left to purchase a higher cultivation technique. Option 2. Move to a new set of control cards. Option 3. Learn to make mid-purity chi gathering pills to increase my income. Then it hit me. Wait, the plan? What was the plan again? I had gotten caught up in progress, lost in the rhythm of grind. But I remembered now. The plan had always been simple. Get the best cultivation technique first, then improve everything else. I had been using low yellow this whole time. It was tainting my foundation. I had rushed. I shouldn't have. But what was done. At least I now had more chi to work with. I turned my full attention toward pill refining, my only goal to rack up points. I was producing 8 pills a day now, and with my improved control, 7 out of 8 were high purity. My profit margin had jumped to 35 points daily. Just over a month later, I had the 1,200 points I needed. I marched straight to the technique hall. You want the high yellow cultivation technique? The receptionist blinked at me. Not many come in for that. Expensive. Yes, but is it the best I can get? I asked. I heard something about special permissions. Oh, sure. You can't get a profound one unless you're intersect. But there's a peak yellow technique out there. Rare, though. How do I get it? You've seen those small competitions, right? Win one of those, and if the elder likes you, you might get it. Sometimes they give it instead of a rank 2 skill. Mostly depends on a judge. I hadn't seen any competitions. I asked, do they test high-level pills? She shook her head. Nope. Basic chi control. Just keep working on your skills. Tempting, but I had a plan. I grabbed the high yellow scroll and left. Learning it was agony. The technique was complex beyond anything I'd encountered before. Weeks turned into months. Then months turned into a year. Even Bao, ever supportive, admitted he would never try to learn himself. It's just too hard, he said. And the gains? Not that great. There were many nights I agreed. I nearly gave up a dozen times. But what stopped me was simple. This experience, this knowledge, it would carry into every future life. That was the difference between me and everyone else. Chow tried to help, but even she had never learned anything beyond mid-yellow. I sought other teachers, but the few who could teach high yellow asked for more than the technique scroll itself cost. So I gritted my teeth and trained. What saved me, unexpectedly, was my work with accuracy cards. That control, that understanding of minute chi manipulation, that's what let me finally form the high yellow chi filter. And just like that, I saw it. These chi skills were valuable for more than alchemy. They were foundational. The first time I cultivated with the new filter, I felt progress, right until it shattered. I had pushed too far, too fast. But that was okay. I had made it that far, and now I understood the next step. Reinforce the filter. Make it stronger, which meant one thing. More chi training. Accuracy was done. Speed could help, but I wasn't pressed for time. Power was the key. The power cards were a whole new beast. Each one had a single red circle on a white background. The goal? Focus your fire chi into the red ink, enough to ignite it, but not so much as to destroy the entire card. Controlled strength. It was more expensive than the accuracy cards, but also more forgiving. You only lost a card if you overdid it. And while they consumed far more energy, they gave far more value. So I built a new cycle. Train power. Cultivate. Train. Cultivate. It became a rhythm. It became my life. Years passed. After the first year, Bao's discounted rent expired, but he didn't move out. I rarely had time for company, but having him there made the long path easier. Someone to laugh with. Someone to listen when frustration started to boil over. I continued visiting Chow. She couldn't help with the technique itself, But her insights as a martial master were priceless. She could see the road ahead when I was lost in the moment. Eventually, I turned 21. I had been in the sect for 5 years. Few people lasted that long without ever attempting to refine and improve Pill, but that wasn't my path. Instead, I trained all 4 chi control skills to proficiency. Accuracy, to precisely guide fire chi. Insulation, to protect adjacent energies. Speed, to react and redirect in battle or refinement. Power, to deliver exact force without collapse. I could complete even the second row cards now. 2 out of 5 might not sound impressive, but to me, it felt like climbing a mountain. With the cultivation technique mastered, I didn't hold back. I pushed forward, hitting Martial Disciple 6 without issue. At that point, I needed pills to keep climbing. But the sect didn't sell pills. They only bought them. I had to look elsewhere. I tried bartering. High-purity basic pills were worth 10 points, so I offered 5 for a single improved. No one bit. It wasn't illegal, but it felt like it was. Everyone was afraid of stepping on the sect's toes. So I used gold. I still had 3 gold coins from when I first entered the sect. Pills were 80 silver each. I got a slight discount and bought 4. With my new control, even cultivating with improved pills was safe. I pushed all the way to Martial Disciple 8. I was 23 now, 7 years in a sect life. The first thing I did when I emerged from seclusion, I made a basic pill. The result? High purity. Medicinal efficacy. 98%. I was stunned. It felt perfect, but it wasn't. If the toxins were truly gone, shouldn't the purity be 100%? Another mystery. Something to explore later. Right now, I had put it off long enough. I gathered a blue peony and an astragalus root. Time to make my first improved chi gathering pill. Balancing the 2 herbs was the first hurdle, 2 parts peony to 1 part root. I had to eyeball it, which wasn't ideal. I'd need a measuring technique later. Next came toxin removal. Both herbs at once. It was rough. I hurt the medicinal strength in the process, but not catastrophically. Then came the blending that I couldn't control medicinal energy directly. I only had fire chi. I ended up stirring them with insulated flame like I was mixing soup, crude, but effective enough for now. Finally, compressed the energy. Formed the pill. And then, it dropped into the cauldron. Medium purity improved. Medicinal efficacy, 12%. Complete garbage. But that didn't matter. I had done it. I had taken the first step. And now, it was time to find a teacher, collect some alchemy techniques, and turn this failure into future perfection. 7 years. That was my deadline. Technically, there was no age limit for becoming an outer sect disciple. But realistically, there was. Most people who made it did so before 30. I met servant disciples who told me why they gave up on trying. They had missed that cutoff. Their advice was always the same. Push, while you still can. So I had 7 years left, and the requirements were clear. Reach Martial Master and master the art of crafting high-purity superior pills, ideally with an efficacy over 95%. The truth was hard to ignore. The past 7 years, despite all the progress I'd made, hadn't even come close to the pace I'd need to meet those goals. But I wasn't starting from scratch. I'd built a foundation, and now it was time to build a fortress atop it. The first step was clear. Gao, she was a martial master now. Someone I trusted. Someone who could make superior pills like it was nothing. She could have charged far more than the 50 contribution points she asked for each lesson. Most alchemists at her level didn't teach at all, but she still made time for me. In one of our first sessions, she handed me a list of essential alchemy techniques. The problems I was encountering were common to any alchemist trying to reach the next tier, and the techniques to overcome them already existed. It was just a matter of mastering them. More importantly, she told me this. Get your chi skills up to row 4. That's the threshold for being able to win rank 2 skills. Few ever reach row 5, and even fewer compete after they do. But if you want to be top 3 in the outer sect competition, you'll need row 5 eventually. Focus on that after you reach Martial Master. It was a plan. I clung to it. But then came an unexpected problem. Back in Rudy's shack, years ago, I had gradually gained the ability to see chi. I didn't know how. It just happened. and that ability had become indispensable. It was what allowed me to identify toxins and control fire chi with pinpoint accuracy. But now, that vision was failing me. The intricacies of Row 3 were simply beyond my current sight. I could have asked Chow, but I didn't want to trouble her. Instead, I went to the technique hall and asked the receptionist directly, "Are there any techniques to help me see chi better? I need something to make the medicinal energy clearer." The man nodded. "Two options," he said. "There's an eye technique here. Makes concocting pills more draining, and it's not perfect, but it's the only one we sell." He handed me a scroll. "But," he added, "that won't improve your actual ability. Chi vision doesn't come from chi. It comes from soul strength." That stopped me cold. He continued, "If you want real improvement, you need a soul cultivation technique. Strengthen and solidify your soul energy, and you'll see clearly. At higher levels, it's mandatory for top alchemists. But we don't sell those here." "Why not?" "Because soul cultivation is difficult, slow, and unnecessary for most. The sect only gives those techniques out as competition rewards. You want one? You'll have to earn it." I walked out of the hall, lost in thought. Soul cultivation. That wasn't just useful. That was perfect for me. The earthly Tao had once told me, my body and mind reset, but my soul traveled back in time with me. If I cultivated my soul now, wouldn't that strengthen it permanently, even across lifetimes? I turned on my heel and walked back into the hall. "Is there any way to strengthen the soul without a technique?" "Sure," the receptionist shrugged. "Just like a muscle. Use it and it grows. Chi vision burns soul energy. You ever feel dizzy while focusing? That's your soul getting tired. Rest, recover, repeat. It works, but it's painfully slow. Still, it was something. And right now, I needed to strengthen my soul. But I wasn't reckless. Not with something like this. Cultivation technique. Ide risca badavits, knowing ide restart. But the soul was permanent. I wouldn't mess with it until I understood it completely. Until then, I would grind the slow way. Soul fatigue. Soul rest. Soul growth. I pushed my cultivation to martial disciple peak, using only high-purity basic pills. They were weak, yes, but they had almost no toxins. Any stronger pill would have just poisoned my system and slowed me down. And once I had that energy reservoir, I destroyed the cards. My chi was purer than nearly any other disciple. Thanks to mastering the high yellow technique first, my knife-like chi passed through the training cards like a blade through butter. I conquered row 4. For years had passed. I had 3 left. Competitions were held every month, and the number of participants was absurd. Winning? Not likely, but I didn't need to win. First prize was a high yellow rank 2 technique. The row 5 category could win peak yellow rank 2. I wasn't aiming that high. I just wanted to impress the elder enough to receive a low yellow rank 2 technique. That would be enough for now. The competition itself was simple. Each participant received 3 cards. No practer, just the warning not to cheat. The sect trusted us, and no one dare betray that trust. The cards? Brutal. Each one was a combined challenge. Accuracy, speed, power, insulation, all in one. Burn through a specific shape with exact force at precise speed, without warming the wrong parts of the card. My first card went okay. A few rough spots, but it didn't burn. Second card? Worse. I lost focus halfway through. Still, it wasn't a disaster. Third card? After an hour of rest, I nailed it, back to the level of the first. I didn't win, but when the elder began awarding prizes, I was stunned. Mid-yellow rank 2 cultivation technique. Even with mistakes, I had done enough. Now, I turned to Chow again. I was ready to become a martial master. She explained the fundamentals. "It's all about meridians," she said. "Pathways for your chi. You have to build them in harmony with your body's natural energy flow. If you mess it up, you lose efficiency. Badly. Everyone started the same way. 2 meridians in the chest. They cycled chi from the dantian, spreading it through the internal organs. This process brought health, vitality, and added decades to a cultivator's lifespan. But it had to be done correctly. That's why those with only one were called half-step masters. Close, but not quite. Chow had only advanced recently herself. She couldn't guide me precisely. But with her tips, my cultivation manual's blueprint, and my body's natural energy signature, I had what I needed. And so I isolated myself. I paid 3 years of rent up front, stopped pill production, stopped training, stopped speaking to Bao. No distractions. Just focus. 6 months later, I completed my first meridian. It was terrible, like a leaking straw. I had high purity chi and a solid technique. But my meridian couldn't handle it. I was a paper tiger, formidable in name only. But I didn't stop. Another 6 months passed, and I formed the second meridian. Still not a true master, though. Not yet. For that, I had to begin circulating chi, infusing it into my organs. The smallest mistake could cripple me forever. I let only a faint trickle through. Even then, it felt like the meridians would shatter. The process took 3 days. The energy I infused was pitiful. Other masters might live to 200. Me, maybe 110. But I didn't plan to live forever. I had 2 years left. I wasn't done. Becoming a master meant little if I couldn't direct that power. I needed the third meridian guiding chi into my right arm, the core of my control. It took another 6 months, but it was done. Martial Master 2. I was 28. I had 18 months left before the outer sect competition, and I wasn't finished yet. Not even close. Trying to craft a high-purity superior pill within 18 months, when I hadn't even successfully concocted an improved pill yet, was madness. But it wasn't impossible, and I wasn't the type to be stopped by something as minor as plausibility. The more time I spent among the other disciples, the more I understood why so few ever advanced. It wasn't lack of talent. It was lack of urgency. Comfort was the sect's greatest gift and its most dangerous poison. The meals were hot, the housing warm, the work steady. If I'd only had this life, no resets, no looming dread, I might have settled here too. But I couldn't. I had seen too much, remembered too many endings, died too many deaths. I needed more. Bao didn't have much to offer anymore. He still hadn't made a superior pill, and all he could say was that I was already doing more than he ever had. Chao wasn't much better. Her cultivation teachings were gold, but when it came to alchemy, she was hitting her own limits. I wanted a private teacher, but those who could make high-purity superior pills didn't teach. They crafted, they sold, they earned. So I pivoted to public lessons, open instruction halls with dozens of students per session. It wasn't ideal, but it was something. Days blurred into nights. My time was devoured by practice, lessons, and the scramble for points. Once I broke through the barrier of improved pills and could produce them at high purity, I began selling high-purity improved pills to fund everything. The boost from becoming a martial master helped immensely. My body held more energy, but it was never enough. I thought about using pills to assist with energy flow, but chi-gathering pills were dangerous when used during alchemy. The surge of chi was too volatile, and any imbalance could sabotage a concoction in progress. I considered researching alternatives, but nearly every rank one pill beyond the basics was garbage. So I powered through, discipline over shortcuts. By the time the preliminaries for the outer sect disciple exams arrived, I was exhausted. Mentally, physically, spiritually. In hindsight, I should have rested, but I only needed to make one pill. I could grit through that much. The exam site was unremarkable, just an open crossroads wide enough for 100 workbenches to be spaced evenly. Some observers loitered nearby, but the crowd was sparse. Each participant was given a mystery recipe and a single set of ingredients. The sect had likely stockpiled thousands of these for the exam. We still had to pay contribution points for the ingredients, but the sheer number used told me the pill itself had no real value. That didn't matter. The mushroom was the odd one. White stalk, pink cap, and several dangling blue sacks of liquid. The supplementary ingredients were a nondescript stick of wood and a blue-green leaf. The process was familiar. Purify the toxins, mix the medicinal energies, shape the pill. Using chi vision, I examined the materials. Something was off. The medicinal energy wasn't green, it was blue. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't have time to wonder. The recipe was straightforward. Peel the bark from the wood. Grind the leaf into paste. Separate the mushroom's liquid sacs. Dice the mushroom stalk into small cubes. Simple, but simplicity often hides traps. Looking closer at the mushroom with chi vision, the truth revealed itself. The blue sacs were rich in medicinal energy, low in toxin. The stalk was the opposite, toxin-heavy, nearly useless. It was clear, the stalk only served to boost efficacy, but at great risk. I wasn't here to gamble. I set the stalk aside. I'd lose some energy, but I'd have a much better shot at purity. Everything went into the cauldron. The wood's toxins required high heat. The leaf's energy was fragile and needed protection. The remaining mushroom pieces needed to be carefully refined without rupturing their sacs. The concoction was chaotic, a mess of contradictions and compromises. But I didn't let it collapse. I didn't aim for perfection, just enough. When pushing further would jeopardize everything, I let go and formed the pill. High purity rank 1 purifying pill, water, medicinal efficacy 43%. Well, it worked. Useless pill or not, I had something to submit. With the preliminary done, I found Bao for dinner. I hadn't seen him in months. "So, how do you think you did?" he asked between bites. I shrugged. "I did the best I could." "Ah, don't worry about it," he said. "Look at me. I'm older than you, and I'm still years away from qualifying. Take your time. You don't have to kill yourself over it." He meant well. Maybe he was right. Maybe next year will be better. Maybe I should just live a little. "Yeah," I murmured. "Maybe you're right." He grinned. "There's tons of fun stuff we could do around here. Just wait." But in the morning, I received the results. 84th place. I had passed. And now, I would compete in the finals. The final round was held in the same stadium I had once watched in awe during my first year. The night before, I'd been anxious. But Bao's words calmed me. If I failed, I'd just try again next year. No big deal. And with that weight lifted from my mind, I could work freely. The task was simple. Craft 5 high-purity superior pills with the highest efficacy possible. That was it. I'd already done this in practice. Now it was time to prove it. The ingredients were familiar. Blue peonies, my oldest companion. Astragalus root, tricky but manageable. Schisandra berries, the true test. Most competitors peeled the berries to reduce toxins. But I'd seen this trick before. Peeling reduced toxin, but it also gutted medicinal efficacy. This competition wasn't about purity alone. It was about total score. So I left the skins on. Each pill was a battle. After every one, I rested and cultivated. Others finished and left. I stayed behind, slow and steady. For hours passed. At last I finished. I checked my results. 91%, 86%, 84%, 89%, 90%. Total, 440. Not amazing, but it was my best. Maybe it was time to stop striving and just be. We all stood in formation, waiting for the results. The top 3 would be announced. First place, for 192. Second place, for 187. And then, third place, Su Fong, a combined efficacy of 486. I blinked. That was wrong that I knew my score. 440. But no one corrected it. I had won third place. People cheered. I stood there dazed. Was this a mistake? Or something else? But whatever the reason, the outcome was clear. I had made it. I was no longer just a survivor or a student or a struggler. I was now an outer sect disciple. I should have been celebrating. I had placed third in the outer sect alchemy competition, something few achieved in a lifetime, much less as quickly as I had done it. The prize was no ordinary token of recognition. It was a spirit fire, a flame that marked the threshold between alchemist and master alchemist. But instead of joy, all I felt was confusion. My win didn't make sense. The numbers didn't match. I knew my own efficacy, 440 total. Yet the officials declared it 486. That wasn't a small miscount. It was a leap. Even if the sect's elders judged by eye, the discrepancy was too wide. There was only one explanation I could believe. Maybe the system's assessment of efficacy was more accurate than the elders. But not that accurate. Something else was at play. Something I didn't understand yet. Still, I had to move forward one step at a time. My reward was scheduled for 3 days later. In the meantime, I dove into research. I had always known about spirit fires in vague terms, rare flames bound to cultivators that enhanced alchemy. But I had never dared to study them deeply. No point dreaming about something I might never reach. But now I had reached it. I made my way to the technique hall, where shelves of dusty tomes whispered ancient secrets. As expected, there were a few books written specifically for new recipients. I borrowed one, returned home, and read long into the night. Spirit fires, I learned, were not simply tools. They were more like symbiotes or parasites, depending on how you looked at them. They lived within the body, feeding off a small amount of internal energy. In return, they allowed their host to refine energy into forms that couldn't be achieved through ordinary means. The one the Twin Mountain sect gifted was known as Cold Mountain Fire. Strangely, it wasn't composed of fire chi at all. Its energy was mostly earth, with a touch of water, about a 90-10 split. And it wasn't even chi. No one knew what it was, just that it worked. The Cold Mountain Fire could disassemble higher-rank pill toxins with a precision that ordinary fire chi couldn't match. But the true treasure wasn't the flame. It was the seed. The sect didn't hand us the fire directly. Instead, we would be taken to the core fire where the Cold Mountain Fire seed resided. Each disciple would draw out a small portion of flame and absorb it. It made sense. The seed itself was priceless, irreplaceable. But here's what chilled me. The sect allowed us near it, because they believed no one could steal it. And they were right in most cases. To absorb a fire seed into the soul was a feat far beyond the reach of ordinary cultivators. When someone took a fire seed, it purified the soul in an explosion of energy, then crashed into the body like a storm of destruction. Without an advanced cultivation base, the act was suicide. But I could die. I could come back. I sat alone in my room as night fell. I didn't light a lantern. Shadows pressed in, and I let them. Silence lent weight to my thoughts. Most cultivators absorbed spirit fire into their bodies. A physical flame. If they died, it was gone. If I followed that path, I would lose the flame every time I reset. But the seed, that was different. It was absorbed into the soul. If I succeeded, I would keep it. Forever that I had the chance to claim something truly eternal. But what cost? This wouldn't be like stealing some forgotten manual or tricking a greedy elder. This was the foundation of the Twin Mountain sect. Without the Cold Mountain Fire seed, the sect couldn't produce more flames. They would be crippled, maybe doomed. And they had been good to me. Bao Wan, my friend. Chow Mylan, my teacher. I had learned so much here. Laughed. Grown. Lived. The sect wasn't perfect, but it had sheltered me. If I took this flame, I would be destroying that. Would it matter? Would any of it matter? Would this timeline even continue once I died? I froze. That question, I had never asked it. I'd lived, died, reset dozens of times. Maybe more, but I had never asked. System, I said slowly, what happens to these timelines after I die? Silence. Then I shouted. System, do they continue after I'm gone? Or do they vanish, completely reset? A pause. That question cannot be answered. Bullshit. You said I could purchase anything. How much? The price of information depends on karmic weight. This answer's cost is impossible. You will never be able to pay it. Impossible. I understood immediately. If I knew the truth, it would change everything. My goals, my morality, my soul. The system had decided the price wasn't credits. It was me. So what now? If every timeline vanished when I died, if everything reset, then nothing mattered. I could do anything. Torture. Kill. Destroy. None of it would last. Hey, I beat your child to death in front of you, but don't worry. In 3 months, it'll never have happened. Could I really live like that? No. Even if nothing I did endured, I endured. Every evil act left its mark on me. I made a vow that night. 3 vows to guide me through this twisted world. First, I would not become a monster. If I crossed a moral line, it would be after reflection, not impulse. Even if the world forgot, I wouldn't. Second, no attachments. I could work with people, even call them friends. But no love. No children. Nothing I couldn't bear to lose. Third, if the system had stolen my future, I would build a new one. Brick by burning brick. So. Should I take the fire seed? Yes. It broke my morals. It hurt people I liked. But the advantages were too great. If the world reset, no harm done. If it didn't, the sect would suffer, but survive. The Cold Mountain Fire Seed was powerful, but it wasn't the heart of their civilization. They would grieve. They would rebuild. And if I didn't take it, someone else would. In this world, power ruled. Hesitation was weakness. Mercy was rare. This was the line I chose to cross. Not lightly, not easily, but deliberately. Right or wrong, I would stand by my choice. I would take the seed. The Cold Mountain Fire was hidden deep beneath the Alchemist's mountain, sealed away in a cavern that few ever saw, let alone approached. The journey there felt like a funeral march. There were 4 of us, 3 champions of the competition, and 1 elder. We met at dawn, no ceremony, no applause. Just a narrow forest path on the outskirts of town and a silence so complete, it felt like death had crept in early to walk beside us. I had said my goodbyes the night before. To Bao, to Chow Mylan. They thought I was leaving for the outer sect. They were wrong. By tomorrow, from their perspective, I might be gone forever. Or worse, I'd be remembered as a traitor in my final moments. Maybe I would be. I didn't know. Either way, it was goodbye. The elder guiding us felt familiar. Maybe I'd seen him at a lecture once or twice. His face was serious, but his presence was oddly comforting, like a grandfather in a storybook, stern but kind. The other 2 champions, proud, bright-eyed, full of anticipation, walked like they were on the brink of greatness. I walked like I was going to the gallows. Because I was. The forest path never curved. Straight through, no branches. Just a single road with towering trees on either side. Oddly, the trees distorted when I caught them in my peripheral vision, twisting like ghosts, writhing like smoke, but when I looked directly at them, they were ordinary oaks and pines. Time passed strangely here. What felt like 30 minutes in the woods became several hours by the time we emerged into daylight. The elder didn't pause. He hurried us forward to a cave entrance carved into the heart of the mountain. No ornamentation. No seed. No guards. It could have been any hole in any cliff. Inside, the elder lit the way with a flare of chi. The walls glistened with moisture, dripping slowly into mineral pools. Stalactites and stalagmites stretched like teeth from floor and ceiling, merging in columns like ancient bones. I barely noticed. My mind kept wandering. I was distracting myself. And then, the cave opened into something vast. An underground cathedral, carved by nature or something far older than our sect. Pillars thicker than tree trunks supported the weight of the mountain. And in the center of it all, a pit roared with a blue flame. A bonfire of translucent fire so ethereal, I could see right through it. It was beautiful, and silent, and deadly. "We are here," the elder said. "You will proceed in the order of your placement. You all know what to do. If you're unsure, speak now. Remember, do not overdraw from the flame. When your body nears its limit, you'll feel it. Heed that warning." I was to go last. The girl who placed first went first. I hadn't noticed her before. Her hair was long, braided tight down her back. As she stepped forward, the flame's reflection danced in her eyes, turning her braid into a thread of light. Her technique was flawless. She reached her hand toward the edge of the flame, used her chi to hook a piece, and slowly drew it in like a fish on a line. Minutes passed. Sweat formed. Her body trembled. At 15 minutes, she grimaced and cut the connection, backing away just in time. She dropped to the stone floor, meditating with a practiced ease. Then came the boy who placed second. He looked at her and sneered. There was something wrong about him, something that made the hair on my neck rise. Malice radiated off him like heat. He didn't even hesitate, just shoved his whole hand into the fire. A grin split his face. He was enjoying it. The elder moved instantly, dragging him out by force. He collapsed unconscious. "Your turn," the elder said, turning to me. I walked forward, not with excitement, not with resolve, just clarity. The fire was a lake of azure light, cool to look at, weightless. In the center burned the core, a dark, deep blue, the size of a clenched fist. That was the seed. That was my future. I kept walking. Wait, what are you doing? The elder shouted. I didn't stop. I ran. He couldn't follow. The flames weren't dangerous on their own, but those who'd absorbed even a wisp of the fire risked detonation if they entered again. The flames inside and outside their body could resonate, spiral out of control. He hesitated. That was all I needed. In 3 heartbeats, I reached the center. I grabbed the fire seed. Chi surged around it. I pulled the flame into my chest and forced it inward. I had no manual, no training, just fragments of knowledge from half-read texts and stolen glances. Please let this work. The fire seed passed into my body, then into my soul. And then I was burning. Not my body, my soul. The flame wasn't destroying me. It was purifying me, ripping me apart, reforging me. If I hadn't known that was expected, I might have tried to fight it. Might have shattered myself, trying to eject it. But I didn't. I let it burn. Then the flame descended from soul to flesh. My organs failed. My nerves fried. My cells died by the thousands. And finally, my brain shut off. You have died. Calculating. You died as a martial master too. 2,000 credits awarded. Total credits, 2,000. I sat in my drab little house again, the dull gray walls even more lifeless than before. I had done it. I had taken a seed, but I didn't feel triumph, or relief, or anything close to joy. I had just been burned alive. The pain was still there, waiting, echoing in the corners of my mind. The system dulled it, compartmentalized it, but I could remember it if I wanted to. I didn't want to. What I wanted was time.so I wandered. I left my house, strolled the Sioux clan courtyard. Everything looked different. The walls, stone-covered in peeling red plaster. The cobblestones, worn from years of feet trudging over the same ground. Signs of neglect, maybe, or just age. Was the Sioux clan dying? Or did it just not care about its people? I didn't know, but I wanted to understand. I picked a random door and knocked. A girl opened it. 16, maybe, eyes wide like a rabbit caught by a predator. Hello. Hi, I said. I'm Funk. What's your name? She flinched, slammed the door. Please no. Please don't. She was terrified. Of me. I walked back to my room. Whatever peace I'd hoped to find here had been shattered by that one encounter. This place was still broken. The damage was real. Deep. Maybe irreversible. I wanted to fix it. But even if I changed something, it would all be undone with my next death. Unless I locked the timeline. Somehow. Advance my reset point. It was a theory. But even then, what could I do? I didn't know. I closed the door behind me and stared at the quiet room. I had taken the first step onto a path I could never return from. All I could do now was keep walking. What I wanted was silence. Time alone. Not to sulk or grieve, but to reflect. But that kind of time was hard to come by. Eventually, someone would come for me. They'd test me, evaluate me, place me somewhere I might not want to be. I hadn't rerun the loop with peak affinity before, so there were bound to be changes I couldn't predict. I didn't care. I didn't want to deal with it yet. Just a little more quiet. System, when I'm tested, I want them to believe I only have a high affinity. What's the cheapest option? 50 credits. Purchase confirmed. 1,950 credits remaining. I leaned back and closed my eyes. I already knew where I would end up. There was only one place where I could be truly left alone. A place I could work, think, and slowly build myself up in peace. No dent. No pressure. No need to scavenge materials or curry favor. I would hate every second of being there, but it was the best choice. So I let it happen. The test came. They evaluated me. And just like before, I was assigned to Rudy. Of course, he slapped a slave mantra on me. Of course, he assumed I was nothing but another naive talent in need of his twisted guidance. But this time I was ready. He wanted me to immediately begin cultivating up to disciple for using his technique. The same one that would make me docile, loyal, and perfectly subservient. I didn't need it anymore. What I wanted was silence. Time alone, not to sulk or grieve, but to reflect. But that kind of time was hard to come by. Eventually, someone would come for me. They'd test me, evaluate me, place me somewhere I might not want to be. I hadn't rerun the loop with peak affinity before, so there were bound to be changes I couldn't predict. I didn't care. I didn't want to deal with it yet. just a little more quiet. System, when I'm tested, I want them to believe I only have a high affinity. What's the cheapest option? 50 credits. Purchase confirmed. 1,950 credits remaining. I leaned back and closed my eyes. I already knew where I would end up. There was only one place where I could be truly left alone. A place I could work, think, and slowly build myself up in peace. No dent. No pressure. No need to scavenge materials or curry favor. I would hate every second of being there, but it was the best choice. So I let it happen. The test came. They evaluated me. And just like before, I was assigned to Rudy. Of course, he slapped a slave mantra on me. Of course, he assumed I was nothing but another naive talent in need of his twisted guidance. But this time I was ready. He wanted me to immediately begin cultivating up to disciple for using his technique. The same one that would make me docile, loyal, and perfectly subservient. I didn't need it anymore. Still, I had a lingering doubt. The cultivation technique I used in my past life, the one given to me by the Twin Mountains sect, what was it doing to me? System, what are the mental effects of the cultivation technique I got from Twin Mountains? That will cost 5 credits. Cheaper than expected. Go ahead. Purchase confirmed. 1,945 credits remaining. Cultivating that technique induces friendliness, camaraderie, reduced aggression, and increased naivete. The practitioner becomes more susceptible to suggestion. So it had strings. Not the worst strings, perhaps, but strings nonetheless. And in this world, any string was a leash. Still, it was better than anything else I'd seen. For now, system, what's the cost of upgrading that technique to peak yellow, but remove the naivete and susceptibility? If possible, tone down the camaraderie too. Keep the reduced aggression and friendliness. 800 credits for the adjusted peak yellow version. Knowledge only, not mastery. What if the effect instead just made me hyper-focused? Help me finish tasks with obsessive drive and ignore distractions. That would cost 10,700 credits. So, minor changes were cheap. Completely new traits? Expensive. All right, give me the upgraded, adjusted peak yellow version and a high yellow variant of it too. 900 credits. Purchase confirmed. 1,045 credits remaining. The information flowed into my mind. Heavy and complex. I now held both versions. And though they were clearly related, the differences were beyond my current understanding. Tom would unravel them eventually. Rudy still expected me to cultivate with 0 filters. He assumed I was a clueless newbie. That gave me time. I wasn't rushing. I focused entirely on learning and cultivating the high yellow version of the technique. I left the peak yellow one alone for now, too complicated for the moment. Even mastering the high yellow version took all my focus. But progress was steady. I reached Martial Disciple 2 in 2 weeks. As the month approached, I still hadn't touched Disciple 3. That was fine. I had a backup plan. I pulled out a basic chi gathering pill from my storage ring. It was one of the cleanest pills I had ever created. Minimal toxins, maximum efficacy. I took it. It broke me through to level 3 easily, even pushing me partway to 4. Rudy would see me as a slow learner, which was probably a good thing. The slow ones were rarely noticed, rarely threatened. I broke through to Disciple 4 around the 2-month mark. Slower than I'd hoped, but my foundation was flawless. Rudy didn't check on me once during that time. All the better. When I emerged, he barely acknowledged me. Just waved me off to tend the herbs. I didn't understand why he even bothered. Rank 1 pills barely needed care. There were only 3 herbs that truly mattered at that level. Rudy, apparently, didn't know that, or didn't care. He gave me a basic lesson on chi gathering powder. His technique was sloppy. His chi control, pitiful. For the first time, I looked at him not as a threat, but as a joke. 8-star talent, he had claimed. I nearly laughed aloud. He handed me materials and told me to make 10 batches. This was supposed to take weeks. I took my time. I practiced. I refined. And then I began a new mission. I wanted to understand why I had never made a perfect pill. I had already produced high-purity pills with near-perfect energy retention and no visible toxins. But the best I had ever achieved was 99% efficacy. Something was missing. I started over. Again and again. I created high-purity pills with perfect form. And still, no perfection. Maybe the answer was beyond sight. Maybe there were toxins I couldn't see. That meant I needed better vision. Better vision meant a stronger soul. But I didn't have a soul cultivation technique. I had avoided them. The risks were too high. Permanent damage was possible, even probable. But now I had credits. It was time to ask, System, is there a way to get a soul cultivation technique without mental side effects? Define side effects. I don't want to change anything other than soul strength. No manipulation. No shifts in personality. No such options exist at affordable tiers. Not in crystal or below. I frowned. Then is there anything you can recommend to help me strengthen my soul safely? Cost, 10 credits. All right, do it. Purchase confirmed. 1,035 credits remaining. Strengthening the soul without affecting the self is a contradiction. It is like wielding a spear that can pierce any shield and a shield that can stop any spear. Impossible. You already changed when you absorbed the flame seed. That change, soul purification, is what most cultivators would kill for. Exerting your soul to strengthen, it still changes you. Slowly, unpredictably. It's like raising a child. You guide, but don't control. Soul cultivation techniques are like indoctrination. They shape the soul deliberately, predictably, fast but at a cost. Neither is right or wrong. You must choose guided control or chaotic growth. But if you choose chaos, you must accept slowness and risk. No defunds. Credits expended. I sat back. Do I follow a path laid out for me? Neatly marked, known, safe? Or do I wander, shaping myself as I go? I chose the latter, because I didn't know who I wanted to be yet. And I couldn't let a cultivation method decide that for me. Yes, it would be slower. Yes, it would be harder. But I had what Rudy never gave me, and what so few in this world ever truly possess. Time. Thanks for watching till the end. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps me out more than you know. Let me know what you think of the plot so far, and what you'd do if you had a system like this. Stay tuned for the next part. It's only going to get crazier from here. See you in the next one.